Welcome to Silent Screams Loud Strength. In today's episode, we are talking about self-worth and identity, rebuilding after abuse. So the core concepts today is reclaiming self-worth and identity after emotional, physical, and psychological abuse. This is a method through the MMPE based on my book Hidden from Within. So creating a roadmap to self-acceptance and identity and rebuilding. There was a time in my life when I didn't recognize myself, not in the mirror, not in my voice, not in my choices I made. I had become a stranger to myself, not because I had changed, but because someone had systematically stripped away every part of me, every part that once felt whole. If you have ever felt you have lost yourself after abuse, if you have wondered who you even are beyond the pain, this episode is for you. Welcome to Silent Screams Loud Strength, a podcast that transforms pain into power, silence into strength, and healing into a journey of self-discovery. I'm your host, Samantha Avril-Andreassen, a survivor, author of Silent Screams, Loud Strength, Healing from Within, The Little Voice That Roared, and someone who knows exactly what it means to rebuild from nothing. My books are not just memoirs, they are blueprints of reclaiming yourself after you've been told you are nothing. And in today's episode, I'm here to help you to do exactly that. So how abuse erodes self-worth and identity, the psychology behind why we lose ourselves in toxic relationships, how to reclaim your identity with intention and power, how to plan the principle of MMPE that can help you to rebuild your self-esteem. It's a program that you implement yourself and work through. It's a 12-step program which is designed to work through the months. You can go back to any stage of the course and help yourself to rebuild and stay empowered and accountable for your own journey. And in this episode, I will give you a challenge at the end, because healing is not just about listening, it's about taking action. Therefore, these challenges, they give you little nuggets and tools to get you started. So, the silent theft, how abuse destroys self-worth. And abuse doesn't just hurt you, it rewrites you. It convinces you that you are small, unworthy, incapable. And the worst part, over time, you start to believe that. You start to believe it all. I didn't wake up one day and decide I was worthless. It happened slowly, without even recognizing. It was so subtle that I didn't notice until I was completely eroded and erased. The words, the gaslighting, the control, the way I shrunk myself into avoiding conflict, until one day I stood in front of the mirror and saw nothing. It wasn't me anymore. It wasn't the version of me that someone else had created. How abuse erases identity is constant criticism and gaslighting. It makes you doubt yourself, and then you continue this cycle of doubts. Isolation that removes you, from external validation, making Their words feel like they are the truth. Control forces you to abandon your preferences and desires, and your voice mutes. The first steps to rebuilding yourself is understanding this. Who you are has not been lost. It has only been buried. So the psychology of losing yourself. Why do we lose ourselves in abuse? One, it's a survival mode. Our brain prioritizes keeping the abuser happy over self-preservation. Attachment trauma. We tie our worth to someone else's approval. Shame and conditioning. We internalize mistreatment as proof of unworthiness. For years, I felt that if I could not be heard, if I could not be good enough, the abuse would stop. If I could anticipate their moods, avoid conflict, disappear when necessary, maybe, just maybe, I could be loved. But love should never cost you yourself. So in the MMPE principle, rebuilding self-worth with intention is through planning, and then you execute your plan. So rebuilding yourself with clarity, that's your plan to rebuild, to get yourself back to where you want to be or once were before the abuse. Healing doesn't happen by accident. If someone spends years breaking you down, you need to spend the time intentionally rebuilding yourself back up again. So how to plan your self-worth rebuild? You identify what was taken away from you, write it down, piece by piece, and pieces of yourself that were erased. Define who you want to be, not who others expect, but who you feel is connected to you. Set boundaries, because self-worth starts with what you will no longer tolerate. So the first step is to say no. My hands shook when I said it for the first time. I kid you not. I waited for a flashback, the guilt, but it never came. What actually felt like what came after was the power, because for the first time I chose myself. So the first no will always feel some type of way. But you have to continue in the journey by accepting the boundaries that you have planned for yourself and you have set for others to follow. So start your planning. Healing is a holistic method. So you move, you meditate, you plan, and you execute. So in this week's challenge, I want you to write down a letter to your abuser. Please don't send it. You write a letter, another letter, not to anyone else, but to yourself. So you write down the 3 things you lost during the trauma that the abuser took. You write down the 3 things in the letter to yourself that you want to reclaim. You write down 1 step you will take this week towards rebuilding your identity. This is your plan. This is your roadmap. This is getting yourself back to who you once were. If you are taking on this challenge this week, share your reflections with me on social media. And please remember, you are not alone. In this journey, you are never alone. Join my community on my website and let's support each other. So healing is not about going back to who you were before the pain. It's about becoming who you were meant to be all along. You are not broken. You are healing. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more deeper conversations, get my book, Silent Screams, Loud Strength, and Healing from Within has guided exercises that are personal reflections and healing strategies to help you reclaim your identity and self-worth. Until next time, choose yourself again and again and again. Thank you for listening.